welcome to the Special Moves podcast. This is episode 124. My name is Mike Williams. These guys are Jake Kulkowski and Liam McKelvey.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello.
All right.
Hi.
Yeah, good. Very, very good. Been looking forward to this.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this, just to explain straight away, this is going to be a Resident Evil heavy podcast. To be honest, we have all played Resident Evil 8 over the weekend. Finished it over the weekend. Some of us have played it more times through than others, but we have all played it through. We had a lot of emails about it, actually, so the emails even are going to offer no break from Resident Evil. So if you hate Resident Evil and you've got absolutely no time for it, this week's podcast
see you next week.
Yeah.
See you next
absolutely. There's a lot to talk about. We actually haven't discussed it, I think. Oh, well, all three of us haven't really. I don't know if you... Because
I didn't even know you'd finished it. That's
it. And I asked you guys not to, assuming that you would be further ahead than me playing it, don't say anything, basically.
Yes.
in the WhatsApp group and stuff.
Subpoenas were sent. Gag order.
Absolutely.
Can I just quickly
got a very
address...
aggressive legal team.
It's not that relevant, but for people who are watching, I bought a drink to drink on the podcast. I bought a bottle of cider, but I didn't realise how big it was, and it looks a bit jarring. So I just wanted to put it out here because I don't want any comments about it, innit? It sounds like I do want comments, but I'm not like double bluffing. I don't. Yeah. But look at it. It looks a bit like a bottle of Prosecco. Yeah. It's the most... it's not my finest moment, but it's been a long day and I'm very excited. So just wanted to say that before we carry on. Is that okay? Sorry to derail.
No, that's good. That's good. A good explainer. I mean, I thought it would have been like lemonade or something, but now that you've mentioned it, it does look like an alcoholic's approach to.
Yeah. all I need now is a park bench, innit, sort of thing. So
yeah, definitely. So, all right, Resident Evil 8. Then we've been talking about it a lot on the pod for a few weeks. In the build up to it, because we've all been excited about it. It's one of the bigger releases of the year. In any year, but especially in a kind of next gen sense, there's kind of a bit of added interest in it, I think, because I've seen a lot of people, as you'll see with every game that comes out for the next kind of year or so, this is the first truly next gen title and stuff. Because so people said that unironically about Returnal, and then people were saying it about Resident Evil like less than a week later. So
like Demon's Souls just didn't exist.
Like Demon's Souls, like they forgot about Demon's Souls. But there's some Ratchet and Clank stuff that's just come out.
I know. Yeah. It looks so good as well.
I've only seen a bit, but I'm going to watch it later. But it does look really good.
I think like 12 channels on YouTube got the a lot of them were like the video arm of like major publications, so like GamerSpot and blah blah blah. And from what I see, like they got to do different stuff. They're not all using like the same B-roll, is what I'm saying. So it's worth watching a couple of them. I watched PlayStation Access's one, which was like, 5 things you need to know, whatever. And it's, mostly about fur and the water texture. But my God, it looks so good. Like, this is, we're going to see next gen has arrived on this one as well.
I've actually read that. I've actually read this is the arrival. This is the true arrival of next gen. So that's that's Ratchet and Clank. But I'm really looking forward to Ratchet and Clank. But it's nice to see some, more. We've seen a bit of gameplay, like the kind of initial reveal of it, showed off the reality jumping through portals to other realities and stuff. So it's basically just loading up other levels really quickly.
Yeah.
We've seen a bit of that, and it's more cyberpunk looking than. Do you remember the recent one that they showed, the recent Ratchet and Clank showcase that was like a Sony State of Play thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looked like, a more exciting representation of Cyberpunk than Cyberpunk 2077. So it's exciting.
Yeah. It is exciting. What's exciting is that, we're getting a kind of the first, I don't know, dare I say, the first casual game for the next gen that isn't like the baked in Astro Bot. I guess Spider-Man, I don't know if that counts as like a true exclusive or whatever, but like Demon's Souls, I think we talked about it last time, didn't we? Demon's Souls is pretty tough. Mm-hmm. Returnal's pretty tough. And I mean, Resident Evil's not an exclusive, right? So Ratchet and Clank seems like it's the first one that'll be like, you can play it with your kids or whatever.
Well, it's literally designed to show off what the PlayStation can do, isn't it? And Sony being like, "Well, listen, guys, we want you to make another Ratchet and Clank, but we've got a really fast SSD. Can you do something with that, please?" And then they're like, loading up levels really quickly, and they're making a gun that loads up levels or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Fine, but it is probably in the same kind of category as Astrobot, where it's almost, one of the primary purposes of it is going to be to show what the system can do.
I wonder how long that's going to last, because I remember they did that with the PS3, where every game that came out for the PS3 in like the first year or two had to show off the motion controls. And
Killzone turning that Valve thing.
Resistance was bad for it as well. Like those games until they got to free, where they stopped caring.
Yeah. I hope they stop caring, charging everybody £70 a game. Well,
that'd be a good one.
I looked on the PlayStation Store, by the way, and Ratchet Clank is the price that we feared.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It is the full whack. Yeah, it is. It's £80 for the deluxe edition.
I'm hoping by the time Ratchet and Clank comes out, everyone, well, not everyone, but more people will have PS5s, and more people will be like, "Yeah, no, I'm not paying £70 for that."
Yeah, it is amazingly off-putting.
Yeah, I saw something about that. The shortage won't end until 2022. Christmas time. So Ratchet and Clank, it does look really, really good. But it's expensive.
Yeah.
So we said that about Returnal, and look where that got us.
Yeah. We're an embarrassment.
I will say, I finished Returnal.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it a fair bit. Still not worth £70. Not to me. No.
It's not, is it? It's just not.
The further you get into Returnal, you do sort of start to see like how little the game actually has to offer in terms of variety.
Yeah.
And it really it feels like a smaller game that they sort of scaled up to be a PS5 title.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about it anyway. It's still a good game, but not a £70 game.
But when you consider where they've come from as well, it's no surprise, is it? The developers.
Exactly.
AAA studio, they are now, but they aren't traditionally a AAA studio, so that kind of makes sense. But okay, so we've done our best to mention other games, and we've really tried there to bring some.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Bring some other things to the table, but we've got to go move on to Resident Evil, because that's kind of the meat of what we're going to be talking about. So, I don't know if you really need us to explain what this is, given how much we've actually been talking about it over the last few weeks. But given the 8 in the well, it is Resident Evil 8, isn't it? Or we've already discussed this, and I can't remember what it was. Is it Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 8 Village?
Well,
officially, it's just Resident Evil Village, but they've got the Roman numerals in the village, haven't they? So which I think,
which they make clear.
Yeah. I can't remember if they actually put a 7 on Resident Evil 7 either, though. So I'm not quite sure.
Not on the logo, because I beat Resident Evil 7 the week, in the week leading up to it.
Yeah.
And it just says Resident Evil Biohazard. And then the evil has got the 7 in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So it's that. No one's calling it Biohazard, though, are they?
No,
because you can't be bothered listening to that. Well, actually, did you know that Biohazard is the name of the series? No, shut up.
So whatever. It's one of them.
Yeah. So but just to clear up any confusion, it's not one of them games where 7 is completely apart from 8. It's not like Final Fantasy 7 and 8. And on top of that, if you're a bit more into the Resident Evil series, then you'll know that. They kind of just pick and choose when they want to start putting in these main characters. So even though it's 8, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see the characters from 7 again. But in this case, you do. It's a continuation of the story. Resident Evil 7's main guy, Ethan Winters, is the main guy in this too. So it's it's not like you randomly like Leon. So just in case anyone.
Well, So it's a direct Resident Evil 8 I'll just call it that. Is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. You're playing as the same protagonist in that, and has at least on the surface seems to have exactly the same amount of bad luck relating to his limbs as he did in Resident Evil 7. A lot of violence to the hands going on in the game. which is good fun. But so the story is a kind of direct. So there's like this personal story about this guy, this family, really, within big. There's loads of stuff going on in the Resident Evil universe by now, as you'd expect, because it's not just the 8 series mainline games. There's, as Liam has kind of discussed in the past, there's loads of, side entries.
I minored in Resident Evil lore at
exactly.
university.
I believe that.
Yeah, exactly.
You probably
Raccoon
should think about
City
it.
University. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he's a historian of the Umbrella Corporation, but there's a kind of close tie to Resident Evil 7 to the point where I would say you definitely do need to play Resident Evil 7 before playing this.
Can I just ask you guys before we say anything else, just on that?
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was a pre-order bonus or something that was just baked into the game, but like in the menu under the bonuses section, there's something called the Baker Report. Did you guys have a read through of that?
No,
I did.
All right, Liam did. Okay. Well, Liam, do you agree that it's pretty much a complete like catch up of what happened in 7? Really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a wrap up of 7 and sort of bridges the gap between 7 and 8. Like, here's what happened in between. Here's what these characters got up to in the time we didn't see them, sort of thing.
And for the benefit of anyone who didn't have that then, and for you, Mike, it's all done in the same way that when you pick up a file in Resident Evil, you know, it's literally 80 pages long. It really is 80 pages. Yeah. But it's some of it is like, one of the pages is like May 14th, 2007, and then the next page. So, yeah, and then some of them are like newspaper clippings. But so if you did get the game like day one or whatever, and you got that, then you could just recap there. But 7 is worth playing. Yeah.
7 is fucking great. So play Resident Evil 7. So I'd spent a lot of time in Resident Evil last week, really, because I finished Resident Evil 7. I get just replaying it, and I played the DLC as well for the first time. So I played some of the crazy DLC that we got, and then I went straight off the back of the DLC right into Resident Evil 8, to the beginning. So it's difficult to talk about that story because it's such a, without spoiling anything, because it's such a, story heavy, and the reveals in the game are part of what's good about it, I reckon. Just realizing what the next section of the game is going to be is, an exciting thing. So we'll try not to, give any specifics if we can. But what you where are you coming from with it? Just on a basic level, did you enjoy it, or where are you up to with it? Both of you. Come on. I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot. I'd say it's one of the better ones. Yeah. Immediate feelings are, I'd say it was in. Would I? Yeah. I'd say it was like in the top 3. I reckon, out of what I've played
of the whole series.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. Even when I'm saying, I'm like, ooh. No. Yeah, I think so, because I'll tell you what it is, and this is coming from someone I've been saying for weeks, isn't it? But it's coming from somebody who's a bit more just like just a fan of horror stuff. You don't really get this like high budget horror extravaganza anymore. No. You really don't. And like when you look at like all the horror games of the past 15 years or so, they've all been like clever little indie games or AA games that have maybe got some clever marketing and shit like that. What was that one, Liam? The Medium, right? Like that was the last like high profile one, and then there was that Evil Within and stuff. But you don't really get like this is like, and what it's doing is like again, I'm trying to not spoil anything, but this isn't really a spoiler. But this one is like a lot more of like a linear thing rather than a lot of Resident Evil games are kind of intimate settings that you really get to know because you're going back and forth and you're unlocking different areas of maybe there's a mansion and there's a greenhouse that you don't get to until Act 3. But in this it's like, nah, you're like literally, you know what, someone's got to fucking say it, so I'll take the hit. And it reminds me a little bit of how Dark Souls is, you got Firelink Shrine and you fuck off.
Yeah,
I gotta say it. That's it. It's got the hub world, and then you spoke out, but you do come back. And sometimes when you come back, what's happened in the hub world has changed a little bit, which I love. You can go back to older areas and new enemies have spawned, which gives you more opportunity to get different things. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is because you're going to all these different places and things like that, you really get like an opportunity it's like a little whistle-stop tour of horror tropes. You get in bits where it's claustrophobic and scary. You've got bits where you're disarmed. That's not like a hand joke. You are literally, you don't have guns at one point. There's bits where, it's like the old Resis. It's bits where it's like the new Resis. It's bits where it's like this film or this other game. Like you get a bit of everything. You get a little bit of every type of horror trope, really. So I like it for that a lot. So that's why I would say 8 is like the wild card pick for like top 3 Resis, because it's a bit of a now that's what I call horror 2021. Do you know what I mean?
Now that's what I call definitely.
Featuring all the favourites. Yeah, exactly.
All right, Liam, what about you, mate? What did
I thought it was fantastic. I actually liked it more than 7, to be honest.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a more consistent game, because 7 has. Right. I do really like 7, but 7 has some moments that are just a bit like on subsequent playthroughs are a bit like like the ship bit. On a second or third playthrough, it's a bit like you just want to like sprint through it as fast as you can.
Well, Liam, importantly, you want to skip the cutscenes, but you can't really in Resi 7, right? And that's another big thing.
It was like a lot of loading going on in the background that you have to wait for and stuff like that. Whereas in 8, you can just like, you want to skip it? Just skip it, because it's all designed around your PS5 SSD, and even the Xbox has got an SSD.
We'll load that next bit for you, baby. Just press the button. Press the button.
I played it on PC, and even the loading there was like near instantaneous. It was fantastic. Yeah. But I like how it's sort of Jake is spot on when he says it is like a bit of a greatest hits of horror and just Resident Evil as a franchise. Like it takes the the core gameplay of 7, like the first person, sort of like fully immersive, putting you fully in the shoes of Ethan, and then it starts bringing in other elements like all the inventory and the merchant from Resident Evil 4. Starts bringing in other parts, like bringing in the classic characters for some of the more actiony bits, and just I like even the monsters, like the way that some of the boss fights happen is very, very reminiscent of Resident Evil 5, I think, where they sort of turn into big monstrosities rather than like it's not like the older Resident Evils where it's like a Mr. X tyrant. You just got to like hide in the corner and shoot at me a few times.
In fact, I would say that it was probably slightly misleading to the lady Dimitrescu, where you kind of get, because of one scene, you kind of get the impression that she's following you around everywhere.
Yeah.
But she kind of doesn't really. I mean, she's just milling around.
You know what? How not scary is that? It's like, nice to finally meet you. And I'm like, yeah, love, I've got to go and visit the Duke, mate. So and he's literally in the next room. Where first see, where she first pops out and she's like, Ethan Winters. The next room is a safe room. So you just go, oh, sorry, love. She needs to go and trade some shotgun ammo.
Sorry to spoil that, but it's
kind of
it's not that kind of game.
Was that not in the demo? Sorry if that was a spoiler. I'm trying to be good.
I don't think that's a spoiler, because honestly, if you've watched any of the gameplay demos or any of the trailers, you've pretty much seen all of Lady Dimitrescu anyway.
And I guess that is what is the spoiler. But it's probably a good thing to know, because that's what I was saying. Where you could easily be led to believe that she was one of the main.
Yeah, don't go into it expecting her to be the main big bad for the entire game, because she's not. And
in fact, I actually saw like some. I don't want to name the website because I can't remember exactly what it was, but some like website, as in not just like a YouTuber, but a website saying she people like Dimitrescu and characters like relentlessly pursue you around the game.
PC game, I think.
No, they fucking don't. I mean, that does not happen.
They cheekily followed that up with I saw that, and then they followed that up with an article that was literally like, the game needs more Lady Dimitrescu. Yeah. It's like, just because you're wrong, mate, all right? Mm-hmm. But it was I thought that like that's really mis-selling it, because it's some people
That's
might
not what it is.
No, it really isn't. And you know what? Like, it's really worth mentioning that for people who might still be on the fence about it, because we've had loads of games like Amnesia and whatnot where you're getting chased, and like Outlast and whatever, where you're getting chased by an unkillable force. And then when Resi's been shining the spotlight on that recently by reviving Resident Evil 2 and 3, which are both games that have that exact same thing as a feature, a big selling point. So if you're like, oh, well, I want to get back to the 4, the 5, maybe even the 6, you know, you might...
I won't say that.
No, I know. But thought I'd leave it in there. I just thought that, like, it's really important to say that, though. Don't get it twisted, is what we're saying.
Yeah, and it's not your fault if you do get it twisted, because to be honest, I think I got it twisted a little bit.
I could understand them wanting to, like, you know, keep the cards close to the chest sort of thing and leave a lot of the game as a surprise, but I don't know. It's like, did Capcom expect Lady Dimitrescu to be that big of a hit with the fan base, though?
Right.
Is this all,
no.
like...
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, it's literally like sometimes
an accident that was probably good for getting eyes on it, but maybe not good for like expectations of what was actually.
And you know what as well? Yeah, again, like, it's something I need to mention, and I can mention it more freely now that the game's kind of out there. But the game was leaked in its entirety in November.
Oh, yeah.
Every story beat was leaked. I knew the story in November, and it was probably good that the conversation turned to some like tall vampire rather than like, oh, and you'll never guess what happens.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's it was there. It was there the whole time. And then as time got on, like, there was playable builds. The game's been playable on the internet since like February. So the fact that no one has really been talking about that, because everyone's talking about some like 9-foot vampiress.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay, I'll just say quickly before, because we've got emails on this as well, so I want to like chuck the emails in while we're kind of talking about it. But I think I'm definitely more in the camp of people who enjoy the like you said, the structure, the other kind of Resident Evil structure, which is like one location, and you're going backwards and forwards, and you're trying to figure out how you get through doors, and you know, where'd you get that key, you know, solving puzzles to get shotguns. And I think Resident Evil 7, the reason, like Liam said, you know, it's kind of inconsistent when you go back and play it. But the first, you know, 3 hours maybe, or whatever, roughly 3 hours are really, really good. And they really balance the thing of, you know, getting chased by what kind of feels like an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
You know, but you can do something about it, and there's great boss fights, and it's all really like grounded and contained. It's scary. Like, I remember the first time Jack just kind of
goes through the wall.
But fuck, it's in her head, isn't it? It's there. That's there.
Yeah, that's the moment, right? Yeah.
And there's cool moments like that in it. And I prefer the scariness. Where with this, with Resident Evil 8, there's probably one moment in the whole, and I don't think it's the moment you guys think I'm going to say. The one moment in it that actually scared me. Well, when I was like, oh shit, what do we do? And I was like rushing around. It was kind of right at the beginning when you first get to the village, and there's there's baddies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And you're like running through doors, and there's a bad guy. You're like, oh shit, and get up the ladder, like, you know, scurrying through drawers and trying to block windows and block doors and stuff. That bit was so exciting to me. Yeah, and I was kind of disappointed that the whole thing didn't, because I felt pretty powerful. Like, not long into the game, I felt pretty comfortable. Like, I had loads of bullets, great guns.
Oh yeah, like I never struggled for ammo past I think past the castle section, I never once like struggled for resources or ammo. No. I was always plentiful in stock of everything. You know, shotgun shells, sniper rifle bullets. Yeah, plentiful. Yeah.
Although it leans into the action stuff.
It does.
Is what I'm saying, and I prefer the scale. And there's details in it when you have just smashed Resident Evil 7 immediately before playing it. You notice, such as Ethan is loads more mobile. You know, he can move around much. He can move quicker. You can like vault over stuff. Yeah, and the movement is a huge thing because he's really slow in Resident Evil 7. And then they say in the opening cutscene, even in a bit of exposition kind of, with all that military training that I just did or something, something like that. And it's like, okay, so he can shoot and run and stuff now. Then
there's a document that you can find at the very beginning of the game in like the Winter's home, where it literally it just says like it's like his personal diary.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's written like all that military training Chris gave me.
Exactly. Yeah, thank God I learned to do backflips.
Yeah. But it's just that what I will say about it, it's just not. It's not quite the thing that I love about Resident Evil and games like it. But it is really self-aware. Like it's just the things that happen are like. You kind of go, fuck off. This is so funny.
I know.
It's great. It's kind of enters this almost like, like Machete or something, like that kind of realm of being over the top sometimes with things, violence and things. And like Evil Dead and all that kind of like, there's loads of horror. It's from a different horror tradition. And, trying to step back from it, I don't think there's anything wrong. It's actually, I would probably say that games should do this more often, where one game is like one thing, and then the next game that follows it is basically completely different.
Exactly.
It's completely different.
That's what I rate about it. To be fair,
I
do
respect
rate
that.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing I guess that's kind of funny is, and this is not. I'm going to tread carefully here, but there's a particular moment in the game that I think is the moment everyone's going to be talking about on this one for the couple of years. They've got like how everyone talks about PT like it's a myth. There's certain bits in horror movies, isn't there? Like in The Conjuring 2, like the bit was the painting scene with the lights going on and off and the painting of the nun. The shit.
The entire second section of the game was like giving me. I was playing it thinking like, this is like if James Wan and Hideo Kojima teamed up.
You know what? Yeah, James Wan as fuck, isn't it? Especially this one bit that I'm on about. The whole thing is very James Wan, right? But it's cool that it has this one scary moment that everyone's talking about, is like viral as it can get. So it's like organic that people are talking about. It's not like Lady Dimitrescu where like they're putting it in the market and so everyone's talking about it. There's this one bit that's just gone off, right? But the funny thing about that is that's the bit that's at most at odds with the rest of the game. It sticks out like a sore thumb when you think about it. But it's funny. So what I'm trying to say is I always feel like a bit bad for them that the most effective bit, the most talked about bit, is the one little bit in the game that's different than the rest of it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's more. When I was playing it, I was thinking of it's more like sort of BioShock or something, like an adventure with so much shooting and there's more of an adventure element to it than Resident Evil 7 and more like Resident Evil 1 and the more kind of contained ones and then to me it is probably most similar to Resident Evil 5 really,
right?
And into 4 is like, definitely the one that they're pulling from, but
the
5
horror,
it's got a pace of 5.
The horror comes from the stress-inducing situations of you've got like 5 shotgun shells left, you're trying to barricade yourself in a house, but then there's like 7 werewolves trying to tear their way in.
It's that sort of like, not enough of that.
No, exactly. When and the thing is as well, like for people who haven't played it, there's one other thing, and it's like I mentioned earlier, you can go back to locations and like they kind of like give you little like reasons to go back. Like there might be like a little mini boss, little hidden bosses and stuff. And even when you take them down, and they're like real bullet sponges, you still got a bountiful harvest of ammo. And
the boss is it is not a difficult game. It's and I'm usually not the kind of person who says that kind of thing, but I was really sort of because the bosses are pretty tough in Resident Evil 7. I think the first time they sit, maybe tough isn't the word, but they're intimidating somehow.
Yes,
and I don't know I don't know what it is about them, and just the way that they're set up is really good. But in this, I kind of just thought, oh, it's another blob, is it? All right, well, just and I just felt like I was in control a little bit. But
I do think the boss fights are quite weak in the game compared to other Resident Evil games. One of them is it real? One of them you could say, is it really a boss fight, or is it just like a scripted event where you run around and press F a few times?
Yeah.
The others are, pretty much like, it is sort of the classic, and Capcom are always pretty guilty of it, of shoot the giant orange blob bit on
Definitely.
until, the weak point appears, and then you just hammer it as fast as you can.
Yeah.
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 I gotta say that again, I think I'm being good so far. I'm trying anyway, but the final boss, I love the design. I love that bit, and it reminds me of a different game. The whole thing reminds me of a different game. But this one particular fight reminds me of, it's a very Silent Hill boss, that, the end bit, I reckon. I don't want to say anything else, but yeah. And if we did, I wish we could do maybe in a Patreon podcast. We can do a bit of a spoiler cast.
We'll do a spoiler chat.
I need to. I messaged Liam, about a specific game. I'm like, when you look at the plot, it's like identical. Like how the Avatar and Pocahontas thing. It's like change a few words. There's a game that Resident Evil 8 is basically the same as plot summary wise. So but yeah,
you love a bit of that, don't you? I don't think anything makes you happier than comparing to Wikipedia plot summaries.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You know me so well. That's really funny. I love it. I was going to ask you guys if you have played Mercenaries mode, right? Because that was like a big feature when they were showing it.
I have.
And I had a spin, but Liam was probably our man, right?
I've done half of the stages, I think. There's a total of 8 stages. I've done 4 of them. So it's fun. Like it's not the best Mercenaries has ever been, though. It feels sort of like not a step back, but almost like a reboot, refresh of the mode, I guess, where it's a bit back to basics compared to the other Mercenaries modes, where it just feels like not an afterthought, but they didn't have as much development time on Mercenaries compared to like the main game, and it is just sort of it's not. It can get difficult on the later stages, but it shouldn't give you too much trouble because it's very easy to upgrade a weapon to be so overpowered in Mercenaries. Ammo in the levels is pretty plentiful. Honestly, you'll never like run out of time on the time limit either. Like, you can get an A rank on it without really trying that hard. The best rank is SS rank. Don't know what that means. Super something. I don't know.
Special.
But yeah, so it is fun and it is well worth a go. You do have to complete the game first for it to even unlock, and then even to play it, you have to go into the bonus menu. You have to buy it with your challenge. Yeah, you have to buy it with your challenge points, which you earn from playing the game and doing certain things. But yeah, like Mercenaries is good, but it's not gonna hold your attention for very long. I don't think. I think once you've done the 8 stages, it's gonna be like, you'll be like, yeah, that was fun, but you're not gonna be coming back to it time and time again to replay it. It's not as good as raid mode, which is from the Resident Evil Revelations games, where that was like Mercenaries, but they added in gear and the levels were very replayable, that each level had a different score. You could pick from a bunch of different characters to play as, and that really felt sort of a true successor to Mercenaries, but they've just sort of like left that behind in the Revelations games. And which I hope they pick it up again, because it does feel like the proper successor to Mercenaries. But everyone was clamoring for Mercenaries. You go on YouTube comments who are like, "Where's Mercenaries?" So I can understand why they brought it back first, but I'd like to see them more work on raid mode instead for future Resi games.
Should we do some emails then? See what other people thought? I've tried to get it's basically representative of. We did have a few emails about this. So if you want to send us in any emails, your thoughts, your opinions about games, your questions, if you disagree with us about what we're saying about Resident Evil, or you want to pick something up, or if you've got a story about gaming that you want to share with us, it's dearspecialmoves@gmail.com. That's dearspecialmoves@gmail.com. Thank you everyone who keeps sending them in, because it helps us put the podcast together. This one is from Thomas, who says, "Hello there," which isn't the traditional greeting, but that's all right, Thomas.
Hello there.
Recently, I saw news that Capcom tuned down the horror in Resident Evil Village due to complaints about gamers about how scary Resident Evil 7 was. I have never seen anyone complaining about it. Quite the opposite, actually. Resident Evil 7 got nothing but praise for its environmental storytelling and horror. Maybe some big news reviewers were bothered by it, and that made an impact with Capcom instead. Speaking of which, what do you guys think about how big is the influences of a handful of reviewers over games over gamers in an acceptance of a game, especially over time? Keep up the splendid work. Cheers from Brazil. Thanks for email, Thomas. Yeah,
Brazil,
I mean,
the best place ever.
First thing is a handful of reviews. There's basically hundreds, isn't it? Is the thing, and they're not all listed on Metacritic and stuff. But obviously, the Metacritic thing is should that be as important as it is? Probably not. Historically, it's been pretty bad. Like people getting 80. What's the story? People Fallout New Vegas Obsidian got an 84 on Metacritic, and then nobody got a bonus because it didn't get an 85, which was the target on that. Which things like that are ridiculous. But no, I think you got to have basically experts. You've got to have people who've got cultural kind of understanding of what you've got to trust that like reviewers have played fucking loads of games and have done nothing but since they were kids, and so when they're reviewing Resident Evil, they know all about the Resident Evil franchise, and it is important. You got to have I think you got to like respect the opinion of a critic. You can disagree with it, obviously, but you got to respect where someone who's good enough to be paid for writing their opinions. I think that obviously it's important, but the idea about the Resident Evil, I saw this as well. I saw this news thing about Resident Evil being tuned down because they didn't want it to be too scary. Because apparently some people thought Resident Evil 7 was too scary. But to me, I think maybe I'm totally wrong, but it sounds more like a focus testing type thing. Like they'd gone out and done some market research with fans and stuff, and found out that some of them thought that Resident Evil 7 was too scary, and therefore Resident Evil 8 was tuned down because they wanted to be accessible. But as long as it doesn't mean that this is like a baseline where like, well, every game is going to have this level of scariness, because I want some games to be scary, so I'm hoping that the next Resident Evil will be a bit scarier.
I definitely remember seeing around the time Resident Evil 7 came out, and Resident Evil 2 as well, Remake 2. There was I did remember seeing a few articles that were from, I can't remember which websites it were. It was quite big ones, but they were saying how they had to turn off the game because the constant pursuit of like Jack and Mr. X was like anxiety inducing for them, and they had to like turn it off, and they couldn't play any further, even like knowing that there was some unstoppable enemy just lurking about the map somewhere.
Yeah.
So I do know,
which is the fucking best thing about it, really. But that's
right. Yeah, it's one of them constant discussions, and like every horror film that comes out, there's always a story about the film being too scary in some places, which is just funny.
Too violent
because,
as well.
Too violent, too scary. But yeah, this has been a bit of a misconstruement, I think. Miscommunication is the exact word I'm looking for, right? I've actually got the quotes here, and I just want to read them because this is exactly it, yeah? Basically, what happened was a guy, Tsuyoshi Kanda, his name is, he's a Resident Evil producer. Like, he said, and this is his exact quote, "Some of the feedback we received regarding Resident Evil 7 was that it was too scary to play. And in one regard, that's exactly what we were striving for, so it's a huge compliment to us. But at the same time, it's always our goal to create something that anybody can feel comfortable jumping in and playing. So we eased up on the tension curve in regards to Resident Evil 7. And then it says, when we develop a new Resident Evil game, our goal is not always to make it scarier than the previous title, but find a balance to deliver scary but fun experience. So it's not saying like Resident Evil was so scary so we turn it down, but he's saying that it's like he doesn't always want to make it scarier, but he does want to make it more fun. Like, to me, I don't know, I don't read that as like, because 7 was so scary, we had to ease up. I think he's saying, compared to 7, we eased up.
Yeah. But
and in regards to,
I read those. I read that, and I thought I reacted at first with kind of a disappointment a little bit, but I think that it's more for me the reason it isn't scary partly is because the structure of it. Again, I already said you're not trapped. If you were trapped in the village and it felt like you were just kind of weaving your way through these houses and the story was just pulling you around the different parts of the village, even though like on paper that's what happens. Actually, what you're playing is quite a sprawling. You're constantly pushing forwards. When you're locked in one location, like the castle, it's not for very long, and you're constantly just barging through it. You're just grabbing keys. You're finding the door. You're progressing the story. You're getting cutscenes. You're shooting the fuck out of things. There's so much action in it because of the direction they've taken. Yeah, it's not the same as saying you're stuck in like a swampy mansion and you can't get out.
That's exactly what he's saying. He mentions this. He's saying that like tension is something that's found more in 7 because it's as if the walls of the Baker Mansion are closing in on them.
Exactly.
But he says with 7, they had to take an entirely different approach because of the openness of the village and stuff like that. So they were saying about how in the older games there's moments of solace that are like in the save rooms. But in this, they're using the village itself, the openness of that, and knowing that there's no like secret tight corridors that people can jump out as that. So that's, I guess, what's in reflection to the tension thing. But and that's like for the other part of the email about like the reviewers, like how they affect games and stuff. Like I work with like a lot of developers and publishers and whatever, and worked on a lot of like sequels, and at no point in any conversation is really reviews like the reviews said and I work with some games that like obviously like some people don't give a fuck, like they're releasing games that are just steady 7 out of 10s. But then like I work with like Larian who like making Baldur's Gate, and they're off the back of like Divinity Original Sin, which is like one of the highest rated RPGs of all time. So you'd assume that like they might be like, shit, okay, so we got 93 on Metacritic, and blah, 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 said that this game had the best magic system. So we need to make sure that in Baldur's Gate we've got... But, like, those conversations don't happen. As far as I know, I've worked on about 80 titles, and it never at any point is, like, critics' opinions come into that conversation. So unless all those conversations are happening in a different, like, stage of development when I'm not in there, I've got to say, like, it's a bit of a myth. And I only say that, like, I'm not trying to, like, shit on the idea of my favorite Brazilian writing this email, but it's more like the fact that like like there seems to be this like weird thing where people hold this like think that like the games press are like the Illuminati and like they've got all this hidden power and it's just simply not the case. Like
they're just
really,
severely underpaid people living in the south of England.
right who should all become YouTubers and get proper money for doing a lot less work.
There's a lot more money in PR, I believe. But,
that's why you get on the 750 bills in PR.
You see the side that you get me. But okay, thanks Thomas for sending your email. We've got difficult to choose. I think I'll go for this one from Callan, who in London, who says this. Dear Special Moves, long-time patron here. During the past year, I decided to do a marathon of 2 of Capcom series, Devil May Cry and Resident Evil.
Ooh.
With Resident Evil, I played every numbered entry, specifically the remakes where available, finishing Resident Evil 8 over this previous weekend. Me and my mates had been discussing prior to this how they personally disliked Resident Evil 7, but I really enjoyed it, which led me to thinking how they would hate one particular portion of Resident Evil 8, which takes place in a mansion house thing. It also led me to thinking about what games I like and everyone else seems to hate. For me, it's that the Devil May Cry reboot, specifically the definitive edition, which runs at 60 frames a second, is actually a really, really good action game that doesn't get the credit it deserves. What are some of the games that you like but everyone else seems to hate? Thanks for the weekly podcast, Callan.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the Devil May Cry reboot doesn't get enough love. Probably because of like the really edgy Dante they went with, and just the overall aesthetic of it was very made as if it was made by a 15-year-old who'd been told make your dream game, and it has to be designed, but it has to be based off Devil May Cry, but make your own dream game. But it was made by Ninja Theory, so it had good combat, and the gameplay was good, and the music was good.
Is it a stylized DMC? Is it that one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I've lost track.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one.
I only know that because like Noisia, who are like the fucking most beloved electronic artists in sort of heavy EDM stuff. It they did a lot of like sound design for it and stuff, and I remember that they had a lot of good shit. But I don't know about like series that other people don't really like. But I'll take this opportunity to just talk about the most underrated Nintendo IP, which is of course Donkey Kong, isn't it? Right? Donkey Kong is the best IP that Nintendo own, and they're cowards for not putting out a new game in nearly a decade. I don't know why. Like, listen, it's not the thing is, like Mario. Why did they waste time with the 2D Mario? Like the super new Mario Bros. U, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Fuck all that off. Start making more Donkey Kongs. The 3D Marios are really good. Like perfection, but why waste your time on a 2D platform? Fuck Yoshi as well while he's at it. The Yoshi's Woolly World. Make another Donkey Kong, right? I feel like I go crazy because it's like I just don't understand how people don't give it the respect. It's everything. It's everything to me. The soundtrack and the world and all that. It's the perfect platformer, and I just don't understand why. Like it's not as. I feel like it is loved, but just like. People can take or leave the Donkey Kong series, and for me, like you can tell I've been replaying a bit of Tropical Freeze on the Switch, innit? But I'm playing it, and I'm like literally going, "How the fuck is this game from 2013?" And there's been no mention, and it's the big man's birthday, innit? Donkey Kong's like 25 this year. Oh, no fucking care in the world.
No party, nothing.
Why don't they care? I think he's 30 actually. So I scratched that. He's even more grown.
Even his biggest fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Jake, it's everything to me, Kolkowski. Donkey Kong is everything to me, Kolkowski.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you something. If the big prediction this year, they're gonna hopefully announce a new Donkey Kong. Yeah. But that's the closest I've got because I don't I don't ever play other games and I'm like nobody likes this. Apart from like I don't know, like I guess we all like Destiny, but there's like this weird illusion that people don't like it. But obviously, it's doing all right because people still play it.
Yeah, I don't know. I really can't think. I probably would say the first Destiny when everyone was shitting on it. I was fucking loving it. But that's the only one I can think of really.
There's like loads of games from the PS2 I remember liking a lot, and then going back when I was older and looking at like reviews for them, and they were given like a 50 on Metacritic and stuff.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah.
They were wrong.
It's a tough question.
As always, Dino Crisis doesn't ever seem to get the love it deserves, apart from the 12 devout of us who refuse to shut up about it.
Have you seen that there's... I can't remember if I put it in the WhatsApp or not, but there is some survival horror-based dinosaur game.
Yeah, I think you did.
What's it? I feel like I would have put that in a WhatsApp straight
Reptile
away.
Emergency or something.
It's a fucking Kickstarter, isn't it?
That's a series that doesn't get as much attention as it deserves. There is actually a Capcom game I played on PS2 called Chaos Legion, which was sort of like a prototype for Devil May Cry in a way, with the hack and slash combat, but you could also command your own monsters about, and it had different monsters which each had different attributes. Some of them were like physical attackers, some of them were ranged, some of them like buffed your defense big time, some of them made you move really fast, and I really liked that game, but it's got like a 62 on Metacritic or something. And I've always thought, what if they went back and like did the remake treatment of that? And it was like gothic horror before it was like big in games. Everything was. It had a very like French inspired setting. If I remember, the villain's called Vincent Delacroix. Don't know why, it just sticks with me. But I remember it was like such a good game. Well, it's obviously not such a good game according to everyone else. But I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But no one else seemed to like it.
Well,
I've
that's a good
got
answer.
in case anyone's interested in what Mike's referencing, he's talking about the indie developed AAA looking game called Instinction, which is made by a New Zealand based company called Hashbane Studios, and it's like a first person game with, it looks like Jurassic Park, man. You know, it's a narratively driven action adventure game apparently. But they haven't really shown off anything. They've just shown a couple of GIFs. But that's the Dino Crisis thing.
That's all you need to do these days, huh?
Another one. Speaking of underrated dinosaur games, or a dinosaur game that everyone shat on, Trespasser, Jurassic Park on PC. If you ever saw that, it was a first-person shooter set sometime around the Lost World movie, and it was one of the very first games to have like full physics in it. And this was in this was like 1999, so the physics were not good.
Shit, they were fucking dog shit, weren't they? In 1999,
like, they were not good, and there was like fully interactive puzzles where you had to like stack boxes on top of boxes to climb over fences and stuff like that.
Everyone thinks Valve are the geniuses for Half-Life 2, but
it literally says, it says here, Trespasser had advanced physics and huge outdoors years before Far Cry or Half-Life 2. It flopped due to complex controls and the then impossible PC requirements.
Yeah, like the controls for it are god awful. You have to like press spacebar before you can move your aim with your mouse and stuff like that. And it had the character only had one movable arm, so you'd like pick up a shotgun, you'd be firing a shotgun with one arm, and the controls were bad. But I remember I played it as a kid, and I remember liking it a lot.
What was it called again?
It's
Trespasser.
Called, Trespasser, and here's a little bit of trivia for the heads at home. Published by EA, developed by DICE. They are.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested.
1998.
Nice
one, Liam.
If I remember right, there is actually a fan remake in the works.
Oh yeah,
like,
of course there is one.
But I don't know what it is with me and dinosaur-based games. But
some good dinosaurs in Total War Warhammer 2. You know, you should.
Yeah, but I don't get to shoot them in a first-person or third-person perspective.
No, that's true. That's true.
All right. Well, Jake is disappearing into the dark void there because it is.
Which is normally my natural cue to dissipate into the night. Yeah.
So we should do the new games. There are some. You know, it's been week after week of Summit Big landing on consoles and PC, and this week is no exception. So the new games, starting with May the 14th, which is Friday, is the big one, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I've been waiting for ages. Really looking forward to this. I can't wait to get this. It's on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. The BioWare sci-fi RPG shooting trilogy. I hope it's good.
Well, it can't. That's the beautiful thing about getting a fucking overpriced remastered trilogy, is we at least know it's going to be the original.
Yeah.
Well, then again, we don't, because sometimes they are worse, like Silent Hill 2, but whatever.
Well, that's a little bit from what they've showed. You know, they haven't been making the most encouraging noises, saying like we've been using mods, fan-made mods as a baseline.
Yeah,
and,
it's a Dark Souls remastered more than it is anything else.
Yeah, definitely closer to Dark Souls remastered.
Do you know what? This is going to be beautiful on the internet for the people like. Do you know what I reckon? I reckon there's people among us that are listening in it that big gaming fans. You know, they've played a lot, but maybe they missed Mass Effect on the first go round. Yeah. And something's been putting them off, and this will be the thing to get them back in it. And the conversation is going to be fresh again, and it's going to be ace to see that. It's going to be ace to see people like reliving like what is now like a super iconic series, and you don't get that much, do you?
No, you don't. And I really want my dad to play it. I've been trying to get my dad to play it. He's never played it, so hope he plays it eventually. It's that kind of like thing where you know if you've played it and you know it's such a like such like a Star Trek like Star Wars like. It's if you like, you just know. If you like sci-fi, it's exactly in that huge scope, kind of big blockbuster game. Which there isn't really anything touching it at the moment. I don't.
No.
think.
And whenever a big budget sci-fi project gets started nowadays, they seem to be tied into like these games as a service models, like Destiny, Anthem, and things like that. You're not just getting a trilogy, a God of War in space, if you will. So Mass Effect
you're getting Anthem, you're getting fucking Outriders, you're getting
exactly
limitations of the gameplay.
So the thing that's funny, So the thing that's funny is Mass Effect is still the one, and it's just coming out. It's just basically doing a lap. Victory lap.
It's just high-fiving us as we go on. So that's happening. That's I can't remember if I said PS4, Xbox, and PC on May the 14th. I don't know what platform I'm going to get it on, but I think because I could play them on PC right now. I could play the originals on PC right now
with fan mods
exactly, which are pretty close to the fucking baseline from what I believe. I could do that, so I think I'll get it on PS5 so I can
go for the big screen experience.
Yeah, play it on an OLED, isn't it? So also the same day, Subnautica is out on Nintendo Switch, and the Subnautica Below Zero expansion is out on all platforms, including the Switch and next-gen consoles, last-gen consoles, and PC. So that should be...
There's a lot. It's good if you're into that sort of shit. I'm scared of the ocean, so I couldn't play it as much as I wanted to. But it's a bit like No Man's Sky,
Yeah.
Dare I say it? I'm sure there'll be people foaming at the mouth about that. But the point is,
it is, though, isn't it?
It is really, and it's one of them. But it's a really good example of one of them. If you like your crafting and you like your hazardous environments and whatever, this is dare I say, I think it's fan-wise, the reception's pretty much on par with No Man's Sky. So it's one people are really into.
It's got its believers, isn't it? I think Limmy was playing it on Twitch, and I think people were generally saying No Man's Sky isn't as good as because Limmy played Subnautica and then No Man's Sky.
He did, yeah.
So there was a very close comparison there for people, and a lot of people were saying Subnautica's better. And then there's another game out that I want to mention, but I have no idea what it is. Famicom Detective Club: The Missing Heir and Famicom Detective Club: The Girl Who Stands Behind are both out on Nintendo Switch.
As far as I know, they're remakes of visual novels from the actual original Famicom NES console.
Right.
Only ever came out in Japan. Got a weird cult following behind them for whatever reason, because it was. I think it was some of the first stuff Nintendo ever did on a home console. But they've been remade.
Bit of history then, piece of history.
Yeah, bit of Nintendo history.
The developers are called Mages. What a sick name for a development studio.
That's good.
Just Mages. Yeah.
It's like a fucking prog rock group from the 70s. It's
fucking unreal, yeah.
And then next week on May the 18th is Days Gone, which is coming to PC. A lot of people going on about Days Gone on a PlayStation.
Yeah.
I'm usually talking about it in a negative context.
Yeah, we'll save you the pain, but it's... Is this it now? Can we lay Days Gone to rest after this?
I hope so.
Well, Sony certainly seem to have.
They're getting their money. They're getting their they have. Yeah, they're getting their money's worth out of these games, aren't they? Just working them as exclusives, flogging them to death as exclusives, giving them away on PS Plus, giving them away on PlayStation Collection or whatever, and then putting them on PC. They've done it with Horizon and
Death Stranding, was it?
Death Stranding, I guess. Yeah. I mean, they're it's interesting. The approach is interesting. They're basically doing what Microsoft's doing, but way more cynically and slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's it. Those are the new games. Thanks for everyone for listening and for watching to this Resident Evil bumper thing. I think we'll probably do, like Jake said, a spoiler chat in our Patreon podcast this week. I hope you don't mind, patrons, if yet more Resident Evil. But if you played the game, and to be fair, if you bought it on launch, there's a good chance you've finished it by now, because it's only short. Resident Evil 8 is only a short game, so should be a good spoiler discussion for everyone who's played Resident Evil 8 over on our Patreon page in the coming days as well, if you support us on Patreon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.